This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Other shows we have for you to enjoy at myclassicradio.net. The Avengers was most certainly not a household name in South Africa prior to the radio series. With no national television service until 1976, the mechanism simply was not present in the country to show television programs to mass audiences. While many other countries reveled in the filmed adventures of John Steed and company, South Africa was not equipped to join in the fun. The series took Britain by storm and made a major impression in the American markets, being the greatest of rarities, a British series given a network transmission slot. However, as a filmed series, rather than a videotaped one, The Avengers was able to gain a modicum of exposure in South Africa through film rentals. Come and listen at myclassicradio.net.
Calling all detectives. Serum antitoxins save thousands of lives. But I once had a case where life-saving serum was meant to kill a man. That is the situation on this page from my casebook. The casebook of Jerry Browning, private detective. I, Jerry Browning, private detective, don't get sick very much. In fact, more doctors consult me than the other way around. Dr. Bowman closed the door of his private office and sat down heavily at his desk. A moment ago, he'd been the perfect picture of the grave doctor. Now, in the privacy of his office, Mr. Browning, somebody in my clinic is trying to murder me by means of anaphylaxis. Anna who? Dr. Bowman wasn't amused. Anaphylaxis isn't a person, Mr. Browning. It's a physiological phenomenon. Extreme and violent shock reaction. For example, if a guinea pig is injected with a harmless amount of certain tropical serums, that guinea pig becomes sensitized to it. Then, if within 10 to 14 days the animal is injected again with the same serum, anaphylaxis results. Within a few minutes, it dies. Wow. Now, let me get this straight, Doctor. Serums that protect a person, if injected a second time within a limited period, cause death? Certain rare serums, yes. Mr. Browning, as you know, I have recently returned from the Amazon, researching for the cause and cure of the dread locosis plague. After 2 years of work, I have finally evolved this antitoxin. And now look. Dr. Bowman opened his desk drawer, took out a wicked-looking hypodermic syringe. Browning, somebody has made a human guinea pig out of me. Yesterday, when I went into the closet to change to my street clothes, I felt a pinprick, investigated, and found this needle attached to the wall where I had to bump into it. The needle was filled with locosis plague antitoxin. If it happens again within the next 2 weeks, as sure as I'm sitting here, I am a doomed man. I was hired by a doctor to find out who was trying to murder him through repeated injections of a deadly tropical plague antitoxin. Dr. Bowman introduced me to his staff as being a pre-graduate worker compiling a report for a medical school journal. His staff consisted of 2 associate doctors, Ryder and Kaufman, and 2 employees, Miss Lang, the nurse, and Harry Brent, the lab technician.
Tell me, Mr. Browning, what do you think of the new Swedish discoveries in the field of paresthesis?
Dr. Kaufman, I approve of them, mostly. I got out of that one. I hoped. But when Brent, the lab technician, found me at the big refrigerator... Get away from there, Browning! You should know better than to leave that door open. You'll ruin all the cultures and Syria in there. Well, I was just looking at the stock. Brent stared at me curiously. Just what do you think this is? A clinic or a grocery store? I couldn't answer that one and didn't try. After that, I kept out of the lab and spent most of my time in the anteroom studying Miss Lang. That was nice work. She was a neat little brunette, who certainly didn't look like a murderess. Then very few of them do. I checked into her background, found it conventional. She lived in a nurse's residence, had no special boyfriend, dated the lab technician Brent once in a while. Brent was one of those guys who hadn't been able to make the grade in medical school and shifted over to lab work. As for the two doctors, Kaufman was a widower, whose chief interest in life, apart from medicine, appeared to be chess. The other doctor, Ryder, was engaged to a society girl and spent all his free time with her. What did it all add up to? Nothing yet. I shifted my inquiry back to the clinic, observed the patients, watched the staff at work. On the third day, I had another conference with Dr. Bowman. Anything yet, Browning? This tension is beginning to show on me. I'm afraid to make any sudden move, walk into a closet, turn a corner. Browning, I can't stand this much longer. Take it easy, Doc. I studied him. How would you like to go out of town for a couple of weeks, until the critical period of that serum shot you had wears off? Bowman shook his head.
I thought of that. But it'll just happen again after I return.
I nodded. Of course it will. We'll solve it, providing you don't lose your nerve.
I promise. I won't lose my nerve anymore.
I grinned at him. Now you're talking. Let's get back to this anaphylaxis business, this sensitivity to plague serums. Would an average patient know about a thing like that?
I doubt it strongly.
But I doubt it too. But I just wanted to make sure. That eliminates the patients at the clinic and means the potential killer is somebody on your staff. Doctors Kaufman and Ryder, your nurse, Miss Lang, or your lab technician, Harry Brent.
I'm afraid you're right. Now what?
Now we try some anaphylaxis of our own and watch what happens. I worked that afternoon with the staff until the last patient had left. Then, in that lull, while the staff was still assembled, I said, "You know, it's a funny thing, but many a guy who's afraid of being killed gets so nervous that he turns around and kills the other guy first." Kaufman turned on me.
Mr. Browning, what is the point of that profound observation?
Well, it's just something I happened to read in the papers. Dr. Ryder smiled coldly. "Browning, I suggest you confine your reading to medical journals. Good day." I got no reactions from the nurse or the lab technician, but I didn't care. The thought had been planted. The next morning, as Dr. Kaufman was putting his coat away...
Confound those carpenters who leave nails sticking out of doors!
We started the morning's work. And a couple of hours later, Dr. Ryder came dashing into the office.
"Get me some iodine and a bandage, quickly!"
Dr. Ryder's palm showed a tiny drop of blood from a pinprick, while Miss Lang ran for the iodine. "What's the matter, Dr. Ryder? Cut yourself?"
"A pin sticking out of the corner of my desk. A man can get blood poisoning that way. Where's that girl with the iodine?"
Well, that proved nothing. But in the lab that afternoon, Harry Brent was preparing a culture. I walked past him, and as I did, nudged him. Brent staggered back, brushed his elbow against the cabinet door, then jumped into the air.
"I'm poisoned! I've been poisoned!"
I grabbed Brent before he fell. "You're dying. Bowman got you before you got him. Quick, tell me what it's all about, and I'll avenge you." Yeah. Anaphylaxis may be something I never heard of before, but the power of suggestion is old stuff to me. I had the whole story in less than a minute. Jealousy. Brent loved Miss Lang. She loved Bowman. So the lab technician decided to eliminate his rival in typical medical style. In another 5 minutes, Brent knew the whole thing was a fake. Of course, the hypo needle had nothing in it. And by then, he was on the way to jail. Like I said, when anybody plans murder, sooner or later he has to take a shot of his own medicine.